Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. I hope you're all keeping well. If I seem a little frazzled, I've just had a very emotional 20 minutes. Um, but more on that in a moment. Um, see what I mean? It's kind of scuppered me a little bit in being eloquent, but in the most profound and awesome way. Um, Good afternoon to board. Nice to see you here, mate. Um, so yeah, tonight is arguably the most unplanned episode I've ever done, and it's only because I found out that my TED talk has gone live a mere 4 minutes before scheduling this post to come out. A mere 4 minutes. Hey, Martin's here. Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Martin was part of the team that put on the TEDx Staffordshire broadcast, and I'm telling you guys, right? And I've said this to the point where it kind of might come across as being insincere. You might look at a TED talk and go, "Oh, that doesn't sound like it's connected towards anything that I do." Right? If you're not involved in a virtual movie production in any way, then that might not sound like it's for you. If you're not connected to pottery or football or any of the other myriad of things that were spoken about on the day that I was there, you could be forgiven for pushing it to one side. I'm encouraging you not to, because thank you, Martin. I'm gonna put that on, so that's part of the recording. It's there for my ego. But every single one of the speakers had something really moving and inspirational and insightful to say. And I genuinely felt proud to be amongst that lineup. What a wonderful bunch that was. And Lev was arguably the perfect way to end the night on the discussion of fear. It's very pertinent for what we do here as well. But this is the Deductionist podcast after all. So I feel it only pertinent. Like, I've not even set my lights up. That's how unprepared I am. I've just walked in from the gym. I've still got chalk on my hands. I'm unprepared. But I want to talk to you guys about it, and I want to share in this journey with you. But before that, I want to take a moment to address the emotional moment. Right, I'm not going to tell you about it because that's private news. That's mine. That's not for sharing. But I want to state on a global scale that my real life Sherlock family, I love you guys. I love you guys, and I mean it in as platonic or as amorous way as you care to have it connected. I love you guys. Thank you. You'll know who you are. But that's it. You should be recognised for your human qualities, and with that in mind, that brings us to the TED Talk. May 17th, I go down to the University of Staffordshire, aka Staffordshire University, to deliver my TED talk that I prepared. The theme for the evening was Into the Unknown, and the overarching narrative that I put towards mine is that as we lean more and more on technology as a society, where do the human qualities dip as a result? Right? So there has to be a trade-off. If more and more of these tools are taking stock of previous human roles for us, where does that leave the humans? That's the unknown part, right? That's the unknown element. I couldn't finally online. Let there be light. I have to keep these on though so I can see you. I mean, they are the Tony Stark lenses, but they're prescription, so I can actually see you. Um, and so I set about researching right? Researching ways to condense a good number of years looking into the topic anyway, because it's deeply connected to my work in investigations. It's deeply connected to my work in observing and understanding human behavior. Mostly because there are ever changing ways that we communicate, and the information, the stats, the numbers, the facts, the figures, the studies, they speak for themselves. And the main challenge, as regular listeners of the podcast will know, is for me to, keep it succinct, keep it brief. I was contained to 18 minutes, and in rehearsals, I managed to keep it down to 15. So I'm quite proud of myself in that area. Um, but the important qualities, right, of these human areas that technology has a direct connection to is your ability to remember, your ability to think critically, and your capacity for compassion, right? Three deeply specific, almost base layers of human interaction. Like, think of it this way: if you couldn't remember your own name outside of hypnosis or anything like that, what does that mean for your identity? Right? If you had somebody else's memories and they had yours, what does that mean for who you are? Rather extreme examples, I grant you, but the more we take our memories for granted, the further away of excellence it gets, right? As one of the points that I made is years ago, we used to have to remember all of the phone numbers that we needed on a day-to-day basis, because there wasn't our phone, there was just the phone, the one that's in the house, and it didn't have a memory. If you were lucky, there was a notepad nearby or a phone book. There wasn't the internet. I'm kind of aging myself in this particular situation. But the more and more we lean on these other properties to do our remembering for us, the less capable we are of doing it ourselves. And obviously, within investigations, and well, it's not just in investigations, it's not just security. Let's call it interactive work, where you interact with a human being in some form, right? That the more you rely on these other elements to hold the data for you, the less connected you are in the moment, because you might have to resource an email that contains, meeting notes, or somebody's specific order, or what your partner's coffee order is, anything, right? The memory functions on a use it or lose it principle. There are certain areas that you remember more of because they mean something to you. This is the notion of emotional salience, right? It is the reason that you don't have to try and remember your mother's name. It is the reason you don't have to try and remember your kids' birthdays. They're just there. There is the emotional salience connection. And yet, with a friend's birthday, it might be more of a challenge, because it's a different relationship, a different kind of emotional salience towards the day. Your friendship transcends that specificness. Whereas for your kids, the birthday's a big deal. It's your kids. You can go out and celebrate your friends without having to know when the actual day is. I've encountered that a lot. So this is the kind of rationale that is brought into leaning on devices to do our thinking for us in this area. It's the same with critical thinking. When you look at cognitive offloading, and now these aren't exactly sexy names for topics, but they are important in what we have to get involved in. They are important in what we do. They are important how we function as deductionists, right? If you look at the word that people really connect to how Sherlock activates his methods, it is deductive reasoning. When we know from exploring the reasoning channels, there are deductive reasoning channels we can go down. There are inductive reasoning channels that we can go down. There are abductive reasoning channels that we can go down. There is temporospatial reasoning that we can go down. There is drop-down reasoning we can go down. All of these different methods for exploration of data, right? And deeply pertinent towards the interaction of human beings. My very good friend Bob has a wonderful way of putting it, in that behavior is not binary. As in, you have seen this, therefore this. That is never the case. Right? You might see this and reason an answer that eventually becomes the correct observation. But humans don't function in the way that equations do, in that you can put the same kind of information in one end every time and always get the same kind of answer. Humans change at the drop of a dime. How are you going to take care of that? And with cognitive offloading, it is the search for devices to do our thinking and figuring for us. Now, on the one hand, when we look at some of the studies throughout 2016, Risco and Gilbert, when we look at some of the studies in this area, the shorthand properties are that it's a double-edged sword, right? Because, yeah, efficient, beautiful, shortcut, great, faster, better, stronger. But batteries die. Internet signal drops. So are you really effective, or are you just using the right tools? You don't always have the access to the tools in the moment, especially in my line of work. Do we really want to repeat and repeat and repeat, leaning on these other things to do our thinking for us? Right? Now, if you were to go to any AI service and ask it a question you don't know, fine. As a kind of overarching narrative, beautiful. Do it. If you don't know something, find out. But one of the things that we are shortcutting there is the initial problem solving tactic. It's leaning into the Google effect. Whereas we can Google an answer, find out what it is. We don't learn anything in the process. Learning is done with how you struggle with the problem. Telling you that 2 and 2 is 4 isn't the same as explaining why 2 and 2 is 4. Right? And there is a value, an insight, and a purpose towards understanding this kind of information. If you are in an interview, interrogation, working a case of any kind, and you are sat across a table from an individual you need information from, they present you with something. Are you able to pull up tools in that situation to do it for you? Are you just purposefully pushing yourself out of work because a tool can do these things for you? Right? My exploration here isn't about the value of tools. Tools are awesome, but it is about the value of the human qualities that underpin the use of them. Without critical thinking, there is no reading between the lines. And if you see the way communication is at the very least depicted in a virtual, digital, social media based environment, we live in a I have seen this, therefore it means this, without just hop, skipping, and jumping all the way over the grey areas. And the grey areas are where the details are, and details matter. Right? And one of the books that I found as part of the research is by a guy called Nicholas Cott. It's called The Shallows, and he talks about this notion of continuous partial attention. We are always consuming information but never concentrating. when you build that into the habitual way that you interact with data, your critical thinking capacity is immeasurably harmed because it's not being activated, it's not being used. With deep reading and reflection on what it is that you read, whether it comes from a point of Stoic philosophy or anything else that exists in between, it is the activation of areas of the brain that are directly connected towards empathy and insight. Doom scrolling, skimming, things happening within 3 seconds, 4 seconds, doesn't happen. The dopamine might feel delicious, but it doesn't happen. You get no insight in that situation. And this kind of observational practice is built on the insight. The mere observation of physical movements and a few pieces of equipment on a table at whatever scene it is that you're going to could communicate hundreds of things. There is no one answer that is immediately presented by it. That is the nature of observational work. It's predicated on your ability to be able to think clearly, rationally, but critically within the variables that you've noticed. The more we lean into cognitive offloading for all of these other elements and these external tools doing these things for us, the less we get to use it ourselves. And when you think, I mean, we've done a few episodes now on compassion and empathy and the mindset and its problems, its pitfalls, right? So we can keep this point brief. If you live via texting, Zoom calls, digital communication, vicariously through social media or whatever it is, if you live via digital communication, you have no real practice of face to face. Even with the camera, there's an implied notion of anonymity, right? Because you can only see here. That's very different if you were sat on this chair that's next to me. We'd be having a different kind of interaction by virtue of the fact that you're in the room, right? And empathy, compassion, whatever words you want to use, they're just vehicles for understanding. That's it. Right? Some have differing shades of value within specific roles, but at their core, that's all they are, vehicles for understanding. If you don't practice that, by default, you have a lack of understanding for your fellow man or woman or anyone else. If you think about everything that you've learned so far about your ability to connect with another human being, whether you want to or not, whether you think you're good at it or not, everything that you've learned about that journey has been built through challenge. It's been built through difficulty. Because the possibilities of confirmation biases increase when you think something is going to happen. It does. No real learning because there's no struggle. No inclination towards reflection in those moments unless you make it a concerted effort. Right? The muscle of being human is built through difficulty. And this was the elements that I was focusing on as part of the talk. The solution is not to get rid of technology at all. Right? You're only listening to this now because of technology. Don't throw your phones away and go back to pen and paper. I would like that if we did, but that's just me, a personal thing. The whole tech race is not slowing down. Right? So I mean, this is what I was speaking about on tactical evolution. More on that soon. It is the adaptation to change. In all of the differing situations we end up in, we are humans. So if we don't practice these live in-person elements, our ability to be a functioning human is harmed by default. And if you look at the notion of celebrity, right, they live in the yes, the yes world. Everything they want, it happens. This is how we get grandiose and disgusting characters, because there's no room for them to practice the difficulty of being a human being. One of the talks was from a guy called Mark Jonah, an ex-professional footballer. And I'm focusing on this one because I didn't know this happens. I don't follow sport at all. So when he told me about the way, well, he told everyone afterwards, but we were talking about it, kind of behind the curtain, as it were. When he told me about the kind of camps and football schools that these young boys and girls go to from the age of 10, everything is done for them, everything. And they are encouraged in certain circumstances to forget about school. Awful, horrible. And it's the yes community, but built from the age of 10. Then you throw in the kind of money that the professionals make. Then at age 30, they are considered veterans of the sport. And invariably, when they retire or leave, they're left with nothing. Now, on the one side, you could go, oh yeah, poor little millionaire. Of course you could. Right? But think about it from the other side. Practice your ability to be compassionate. These are men and women that have never booked an appointment, never driven to get their shopping, never booked a holiday, don't know when they have to get checkups, don't know when their injections are next due if they do them. All of these little things that me and you take for granted from the difficulty of engaging with life, they don't have that because they had no difficulty in that area. So their ability to understand is harmed, and their mental health plummets as a result. Some awful statistics coming out of the healthcare in that area, and it takes wonderful humans like Mark to stand against the flow and be a force for change. So yeah, but all that is to say, it is about balance in how we use it, right? Are you Googling answers just to answer a question, or are you Googling answers to find something out that you need? Right? There'll be curiosities that I will think of on occasion about, deeply dorky and arguably very niche and not very important forensic work, but they occur to me, and I don't know what the answer is. So I will then go and find out, and I could go, boom, my journey's done in that area. No. That's where the education starts, because if I have the answer to this, I can then start wondering, what about in this situation, or this situation, or this situation, or this situation? How would it change it if we added these variables in and these variables in? How can I practice it? How can I go and make it work? What if I get it wrong? Well, I'll go and get it wrong, and I'll figure out what happens in that. Right? All of the ways that you practice with the tools that you use is about balance. I use AI. Yes, Mr. Jane. I use AI. I use it for image creation and video creation, because I sometimes need visual illustrations of a logic problem or a memory test, or a human behavior, something like that. That the stock video market, or the past cases or whatever, I can't have, so I will use the image creation things to do it, because I can't build that kind of stuff. I'm nowhere near as skilled, and I don't have the know-how. So that serves its purpose. It's balance. This is visuals feeding the skill that I already have. And it was one of the things that I cited in the talk, and it genuinely concerns me, this, about the way that it affects our ability to interact. And I don't want it to be misunderstood as an old man moaning, because it's not. Well, I suppose I am an old man, and it might sound like I'm moaning, but I'm not whinging. Um, Sam Altman, the OpenAI CEO, a few weeks ago now, was concerned about the millions of dollars it was costing for ChatGPT to use the manners that its users were using in response to the questions. And I was like, think about the people that have to work at OpenAI, ChatGPT, whatever they call it. Think about the people that have to do that for however long the shifts are. I don't know. Average shift is 8 hours. What do they learn after an 8 hour shift of either just this kind of knee jerk response of using pleases and thank yous and then being asked not to because it costs money? What are they learning then about denying that for 8 hours? How does that change their interactions? Does it? If you spend enough time denying just a basic human interaction point. All behaviors are learned. You can't turn them on and off. They take time to develop. We know all about the ins and outs of neuroplasticity at this particular stage. That's the unknown part. We seem to be moving towards reliance. Reliance is not good for humans. But nor is defiance. Right? It is about concerted effort to practice those parts of being human. Leaning into the challenge and trying to get a little bit more comfortable with it. That's all. That's all it is. One of the lines from the talk was, be a human first. Right? And as part of my role, my job, humans have to both fascinate me and frustrate me in equal measure. Right? But you put these practiced elements of the vehicles of understanding first. Because change cannot be forced or demanded. So find a balance in how you're using your technology. And you won't lose those human parts of you that I genuinely think are some of the most valuable parts of being a human being. Thinking about all the memories that I have, all of the interactions that I have of my Saturday team, my Saturday family. Some of the jokes, the banter, the growth, the skill, the insight they provide. If I couldn't remember half of that, well, obviously it would make me it make me a terrible coach because a memory skill is part of it. But hear me what I'm saying. If I couldn't remember some of that, God, I'm missing out. I'm missing out. And there are some people that struggle outside of medicinal or psychological issues. There are some people that will engage in a phone conversation and somebody will say, "What did you just talk about?" I can't remember. That's frightening. That's frightening. Think about your ability to understand your friends, your family, your loved ones, and what their needs are in specific situations. That's born of your capacity for compassion and critical thinking. Right? So these are human skills. And then afterwards, not straight afterwards, so I did my talk on the Thursday. By the Friday, I was openly beaten, exhausted, run down. Not me. I've been myself for a while, but that's a different story. Then on the Saturday, we went down to you know you are, Mr. Jane. You know you are. Yeah, yeah, you and me both. You and me both. But Saturday, I went down to Undershore which, for those of you that don't know, is uh, uh, a mecca for Sherlock Holmes fans of any sort from around the world. It is the home, well, one of the homes of Arthur Conan Doyle, arguably the most famous, and it has now been turned into a wonderful charity for special educational needs. And we've been down there a few times, but this Saturday in particular was a pretty big deal because my publisher, MX Publishing, has been running a charity collection, the MX Book of New Sherlock Holmes Stories, of which my pastiche, The Case of the Biblical Colours, stands a proud member as part of the series. In the copy that's called Eliminate the Impossible, I think it was 6 or 7. There are now 52 tomes, over 1,000 stories, and this is the biggest anthology of any genre. And we were celebrating that as a way to raise money for the charity. Um, so I went down to do a performance. There were two incredible actors, Luke and Joe, who were doing a scene from The Sign of Four, and there was talks about the money that was raised, and like they were looking to raise a specific target, and Steve, glorious human that he is, got them started by handing them a check for 10 grand. And when you're able to do something for charity, even if it's a charity that you don't necessarily know that much about, and I didn't when I first started going down to Undershore. I was like, okay, it's a special educational needs school, fine. You go back the next time, you learn a little bit more about them, you meet the people. You go back another time, you learn a bit more, you meet the people, and you go back this time, and oh my god, the development and the work they're doing is huge. And by the end of the night, we'd managed to raise £25,000, and in an almost, um, I don't know what the right word is I need, but it felt nice. It felt nice to be a part of that. I was only a small part of that, but it felt nice to be a part of it, to be able to facilitate those things for those guys. Um, So I'll be doing vlog posts on that so you can see it. But when this episode goes out live tomorrow, so if you're not watching it live now, when it goes out live, there'll be all the details for the MX links, so you can go and have a look at the performances and the talks. Stephen Fry sent a video in. Most famously, Stephen Fry played Mycroft in A Game of Shadows, the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock film. Giles Brandreth did as well. Good, good point, Mr. J. Feels nice only when we remember. Nice to connect the two. Um, but yeah, and my performances on there, it was it was a kind of a physical challenge, mostly because I didn't bring my belt. So my jeans kept sliding, kept sliding down. um, but yeah, so that's that. If I look physically uncomfortable on the video, that's why. That's why. But yeah, and then Steve gifted me with an antique copy of the illustrated canon. It's huge. It's this huge thing. Will you be quiet? Let Lexi's over there just whinging away. Um, she's like, no one's paying attention to me. She's come over here now. What do you want? Yes, you are a very fantastic dog. You are. Um, but yeah, he gifted me an amazing book. It was it's just been a real a real emotional few weeks. And because of the people around me, it has been easier. Not been easy, but it's been easier. I find myself leaning more into the practicing parts of Stoicism. But yeah, so that is my TED Talk journey. And if you've not watched it by now, the link to the talk itself will also be in the episode description. But if you're watching it live now, go and find it on YouTube. It is trying to find you the image. Oh, it's on a pause screen. Hang on. Now I have to sit through YouTube adverts together. Oh, there's two of them. Wonderful. Non-skippable ones. Information to be in a location. There you go. Oh, focus. Focus. Sometimes focus is if I do that. Is he going to focus? No. Think, feel, remember. Staying human in a digital age. That's the name of the talk. So yeah, go watch, consume, enjoy. Let me know. Well, let me know if you enjoyed it or not. I'm sure the internet will be more than honest. So yeah, with that in mind, guys, I'll love you and leave you, and I'll see you again in a couple of weeks for another one. Oh, a couple of comments in. Worth the wait. Thank you, Martin. Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna love you and leave you guys. See you in a little bit. Take care.